If you are a distributor in the construction lumber area, or you're building a home, you're building some kind of commercial space, and you want that sweet looking door frame made out of wood, consider Ferche a great option.
We're going to be in the nicest homes, but we're also going to be in starter homes. We're going to be kind of all across the board to make sure it's dried properly and treated properly and conditioned to be optimal for manufacturing. And not everybody does that.
Millwork to me means wood. Wood burns. However, fire-rated frames, can you talk about that a little bit?
And I just respect hard work and American-made product. We've taken that into this niche category of wood door frames that has carried us all over the world.
Listen up, America. This is the American Made Podcast, the show that highlights America's business leaders and experts in all aspects of the manufacturing industry. If it's made in America, you'll find it here.
China. Made in America. Products made with American heart, American sweat.
Now, your host of the American Made Podcast, Jason J. Webb.
What's up, America? It's Jason Webb. With me today is Corey Hollenhorst, the CEO of Ferche Millwork. Did I get it right, Corey?
You did, all of it.
All right, that was a mouthful. Ferche Millwork. So let's get into Ferche. I'm on the website right now, and I was looking at the products, and one of the things I asked you about right before we got on air was this fire-rated frames. So millwork to me means wood. Wood burns. However, fire-rated frames, can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So we're talking about door frames.
Okay.
So the typical traditional home would have typically a wood door frame around the door where the hinges get screwed in and the strikes and things like that. When you get into more commercial type projects, you'll often see metal frames, and that obviously provides more of an industrial look and something that's not as
Appealing.
beautiful or appealing, right?
Yeah.
So,
Like my door right there.
exactly.
Right?
We use that as the example. So in probably 15, 16 years ago, something like that, we were pioneering in this product category, trying to find a way to make a wood door frame that would be able to meet the fire standard. So ultimately, the way we manufacture it is through magic, but it really is there's a chemical component that is put into a laminated core, and then we wrap it completely in wood. So everything that's exposed is veneer and solid wood. It can stain and be treated like any other wood jam would. But once fires burn through those wood components, it gets to that chemical component, and it expands to hundreds of times its size and fills all the gaps between the door and the frame and keeps the fire on the fire side.
Wow. All right. So what are some of the other products that are more popular, or your most popular products that you guys manufacture over at Ferche?
So we're in our 65th year in business, and we would have an industry reputation as being kind of the oak moldings guys. So historically, we've been around as mainly servicing the residential hardwood moldings sector of the millwork category. So baseboards, casings, crown moldings, chair rails, and panel molds and that kind of stuff. So we're heavily in the trim business.
Okay. So I just did a remodel at my house, and I'm not too bougie, too fancy by any means. So a lot of my, I guess, trim came from places like Menards, and I don't even think it was real wood, man. I mean, the stuff bends. It seemed like a mixture of wood and plastic almost. Am I wrong here? I mean, on the lower scale end of molding or trim, what's that stuff made out of? Is it wood?
It's some wood fiber typically is in there. MDF is probably what you used. If you go to most of the big box stores, if you're looking for paint grade on the cheap, you're going to get MDF, which is basically a fancy cardboard. And there's a couple different ways it's coated. But
I just trim my house in cardboard.
Well, a lot of people do. It's the bane of our existence, as we're kind of the opposite end of the spectrum. So, we're hardwoods manufacturers. So, our standard kind of fare is about 20 species. Hardwoods being red oak, poplar, maple, cherry, walnut, hickory, white oak. I mean, things like that. And then that's mostly domestic stuff. And then some stuff that we get from overseas, typically South American, African hardwoods like mahogany and sapele and okume and things are more exotic sounding, but stuff that's used fairly regularly in the United States still.
Do you typically work, like your customers, do you typically work with more like high-end builders of residential homes then? Or who comes to you most commonly to buy the products? Or do they end up more in like lumber yard stores?
So we sell through a few different, based on the segments that we serve. So we kind of look at our business as having 4 channels to market. The primary one and sort of the historic one would be the residential products market, and that we sell through 2-step distribution. So we sell to either a building materials distributor or a millwork products distributor, who then sell down to the lumberyard, who then sell to the contractor end user. So we're 2 steps away ultimately. And that's just more of an economies thing. So we sell truckload amounts of this material to someone who distributes it out kind of to the next wave down of lumber yards, mainly some design centers and some other folks in that world in the retail space. Ultimately, the end user buys it from them, whether that be the contractor, or if you're going to remodel your home, you might go to a lumberyard and order from a lumberyard as opposed to going to the big box store. You can get a lot of our products through the big box store. It's not, we wouldn't stock our type of product, but if you go to the pro desk and you were to
special order for,
something a little higher quality than they would have, you would be able to get it typically.
Yeah. Would you say your products typically end up in higher end residential homes, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. It's changed quite a bit. I mean, I would say in the Midwest, for most of the last 50 years, you probably would have had our product in your house if you were building even a starter home. Very common to put oak moldings or poplar moldings or maple moldings, something decent. Probably since the kind of the relatively substantial economy crash in the late aughts, you would have had a number of people trying to find alternatives to bring product or to bring pricing down. So that's when the introduction of paint grade became a little more prominent in the Midwest. That's when things like MDF started sprouting up in more regularity. So those are budget options that we don't do much, or we don't do any MDF, but paint grade is something that we've kind of crept into by necessity. But we still kind of hang our hat on being the guys who provide high quality and kind of nicer stuff. So, we're going to be in the nicest homes, but we're also going to be in starter homes. We're going to be kind of all across the board. We've got options kind of to fit any budget for the most part, except the absolute bargain basement, kind of low end.
Yeah. So let's I'm interested in the manufacturing process itself. I mean, do you get truckloads of, 50-foot log sections of oak trees showing up on your doorstep and you take it from there? Or like, where's this whole process start?
Almost. So we have, we're in Rice, Minnesota, which for people who don't know Minnesota well, it's about 75 minutes right up the Mississippi River from the Minneapolis-St. Paul area.
Not far from St. Cloud,
it's
right?
10 minutes from St. Cloud.
Yeah.
So if you're familiar with St. Cloud, so kind of dead middle of the state if you threw a dart. That's where we manufacture everything, but the lumber, almost none of it really comes from up in this part of the country. So we have a second location called Ferche Lumber. It's in Mount Pleasant, Tennessee. It's about 45 minutes from Nashville. It's right at the kind of the edge of the Appalachian Mountain region. And that's where we're getting most of our standard hardwoods, poplars, red oaks, white oaks. And that material comes in from the sawmills that are pulling it out of the mountains, basically, and they cut it up into various thicknesses, but it's random width, random length, and it's still full of water. So what we're doing down there is it's called lumber concentration, but ultimately we're grading it to make sure it's the grade of product that we require, which is FAS, the highest grade of lumber. And then we go through a series of processes, but ultimately we're drying it down to a moisture content that's acceptable to make the quality of product that we need to make. We'll use red oak as an example. It's about 70% moisture when you cut a tree down, or if it naturally fells. When we get it, we have to air dry that for 3 or 4 months before it's ready to go into a kiln.
Is that done here in Rice or down in Tennessee?
That's all down in Tennessee. We did it up here for a long time, but we've been in Tennessee for quite a few years, couple decades, and then some. Just because the weather is optimal and we're closer to the source. But
first of all, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Is it pretty unique to the fact that you got Ferche Millwork, which produces the end product, but then you also got this lumber mill down in Tennessee.
I wouldn't say it's unique. It's a model that other manufacturers follow, just basically vertical integration. It gives you opportunity.
I mean, it makes good sense.
Yeah, and it allows us, because we have a higher standard of quality, it allows us to maintain that from the beginning, really. So the sawmills, as long as they're providing us product to grade, then it's kind of on us to make sure it's dried properly and treated properly and conditioned to be optimal for manufacturing. And not everybody does that. And if you're interested, I can guarantee you, if you go to a lumber yard and take a piece of our molding and go to the big box store and compare them side to side, you'll see definite quality differences just in the actual wood itself, aside from even the quality of the manufacturing part, but just the color and consistency of the wood, the straightness of it, the way it took the machining when it went through the molder. I mean, there's something to be said for having control of all those things to ensure that the end product is as good as it can get. So we see that as a strategic advantage to have that location in Tennessee.
And you chose Tennessee primarily because that's where most of the trees are grown that you would end up using?
The best, the Appalachian red oak specifically, Appalachian red oak tends to be the most color consistent. If you think about oak trees, we see what we see around here as oak trees are pretty decent sized oak trees. Well, mountain grown oak trees in Tennessee are giant in comparison to what we see around here. So the boards are bigger, the lengths are longer, the widths are wider. So it's a premium, tree to start with, really, as far as oak trees go. So
and do you guys start that process with Ferche down in Tennessee, cutting the tree? Do you guys
we don't
do that?
Nope, that's a sawmill's job, and they may cut a tree, or they may trees naturally fall down, and then they'll take them out and cut them up in the sawmill and cut them into boards. So we basically get it from the sawmills. The sawmill does that first step, and we take it from there.
Okay. So a sawmill, is that in Ferche's future, adding one of those?
It's something we've obviously looked at over years. It's not necessarily a perfect fit in that we only use a really small component of the tree at the end of the day. So there's several grades of lumber that get pulled out of a tree, and we're only looking for the highest grade stuff, but someone has to find a home for the rest of it. And, the rest of it does go into similar industries. So like the lesser grades would go into things like cabinets and flooring, but some of it goes into railroad ties and pallets and furniture guts and things that we have we're not, kind of, and stuff we're not really in the channel to service, but, it's certainly something we could do. And it's been something that's been discussed over the years, but not something we've ever moved on.
All right, so let me get my terms right. So first, we got the sawmill.
Yep.
So the sawmill is the one that takes the raw tree and kind of boards it up.
Yep.
Right. Then it goes to the lumber mill, which Ferche owns down in Tennessee.
Correct, and that's called lumber concentrations. It's primarily just processing and drying lumber.
And then it gets shipped up here to Ferche Millwork.
Correct.
And that produces the end product that is then sold through like a lumber yard.
So we go to a distributor and then a lumber yard.
Distributor, then okay.
Yeah. And the distributor, so if we're using like a Millwork distributor as an example, so they're going to buy trim from us. They're going to buy doors from various door manufacturers. They're going to have hinges. They're going to have stair parts. They're going to maybe have cabinets and things of that nature. So the lumber yard can go to them as kind of a full service resource for that entire package of goods. Whereas we're selling a sliver of it, a section amongst that category.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't know about all this. So, all right. So you do a lot of trim work, a lot of more high quality stuff. Located in Rice. About how many employees?
We're about 120, 125 total, something like that.
And you are the CEO.
That is my name. That is my job title.
No, your name is Corey.
My name is Corey. Yeah.
CEO. All right. So what's it like being CEO?
I'm still figuring that out. I took over this summer after my predecessor retirement, and
so 3 months ago.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, and before that, you were in sales.
I was VP of Sales and Marketing for about the last 10 years, and actually before that, I worked in the tech industry. Before that, I was a web developer and part of this kind of a boutique ad agency with did digital and app development, web development stuff. And my relationship with Ferche goes back probably another 5 or 7 years prior, as they were a customer who we developed an online pricing system for and did some websites and some other creative services and things. So I've been working with Ferche for most of the last 15 plus years, but I've been officially employed by them for the last 10.
Well, that's interesting. So you're doing some website stuff, some digital stuff for Ferche, and then what? They're like, hey, we like this Corey guy. Let's try to snag him and get him over here.
That's kind of the story. And actually, the president at the time, the one who retired recently, who I've taken over, he and I share a love of guitars. So in the time that we worked together, we kind of realized we had this kind of bond related to that. And he and so the agency that I was with that serviced them for a long time, I left for about 2 years to join another startup digital agency. And in that time, he and I stayed connected. And I don't really remember this exact way it went down, but at some point he's like, you should come in and talk to me. I got an opportunity that might be a good fit for you. And it was a time in my life where I was probably ready to do something a little different. If I'm being honest, I could kind of see that the world of especially building websites for people was turning into a DIY project that everybody could do for cheap. And it was going to be harder and harder to sustain a business that was selling that. Yeah. Even though we were doing more high-end kind of custom programming and development, there was an end in sight. So it felt like the right time. And my wife kind of jabs me and says, this sounds like an adult job. Maybe you should go take a look at it. So as a guy who wore, baseball caps and flip-flops and hoodies to work every day for most of my life till that point, it was certainly a different culture and atmosphere, but the opportunity was interesting to me. And I had been interested just sort of on my own. I had started taught myself woodworking over the period of years right around that time. So I was building some furniture and just kind of figuring stuff out. And my wife's an interior designer, so we had built a couple houses, mainly her. I helped
from the ground up.
Her builders did it as far as we designed them and decorated and all that kind of stuff. So I built some stuff for those houses and I was more and more interested in woodworking. So then I just kind of naturally curious about the manufacturing side and where these products come from and how they're made, and just to understand that stuff at a higher level was interesting. So it was an intriguing opportunity.
Yeah. All right. Guitars, huh?
Yeah.
So you play?
I do.
Self-taught, take lessons?
Oh, self-taught and all the bad habits to prove it.
Yeah. I have a guitar sitting in the corner of my living room. I have good intentions, but I have no idea how to play that damn thing. So if I wanted to learn guitar, what do you recommend?
Well, I think it's easier than ever now because there's just so much good stuff on YouTube that you probably could pick it up in a heartbeat there. I learned before all that stuff, so you had to just sort of listen to music and try to plink around until you made the same sound and then figure if that, if you could repeat that. Or you'd had, there used to be books and they probably still have books, but there used to be books where you could buy them and the song you like would be in there and it would, have the tablature and the little finger charts and show you how to play. And that's how I learned.
Yeah.
And it took me a really long time before I got guts enough to play around or with other people, which as soon as you start getting around other people, then you start picking up everything because you just naturally from osmosis kind of pick things up from whoever you're sitting around with.
Musicians amaze me. Anytime I see a live band, even a cover band, right? They got all these songs memorized. For me, just memorizing the words to sing along to those songs would be difficult. But now they're throwing in an instrument and playing all these notes on an instrument while singing. Bro, makes my head go tilt. How do you memorize all that stuff? Every finger position, every word, and do it in a way that sounds good. It just seems beyond me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it is amazing when someone can, particularly the people who have huge catalogs of complex things, but at its core, I think music's easier than a lot of people think. Once you get past a few hurdles, you can realize it's just a series of patterns that repeat. And if you can kind of
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
A lot of, pop songs and even more difficult songs, most of them share some similarities where you can kind of glean one thing into the other and start figuring out how to play. One song becomes many, many others. And what is there? There's only 8 notes or whatever. There's not a lot you can do with it. So is it 12? I can't remember now because I'm not that smart, but there's not very anything. The combination is just which series of chords and notes are, strung together how, but you can, I think more people, if they just get past a couple humps, will find that it's a joy. But I remember getting to those points where you just hit a wall and you're like, I'll never learn this. I'll never get good at it.
Yeah.
Now I'm still not that great, but I can pick up a guitar, play a song, and I could probably figure it out fairly quickly, at least the basics of the melody or the rhythm, just because there aren't that many options.
Yeah, I recently seen something, I don't know, it was on Facebook or something, and the guy, I don't know if he's selling a course or what, and he was like, if you know these 3 chords on your guitar, you can pretty much play like 90% of the songs out there.
That's true. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
That's absolutely the truth. There's several genres that really rely on that simplicity too. And on a guitar is much easier than a lot, because if you can learn like G, C, and D, then you can just move a capo up and down and you'll actually change keys, but you don't have to change your fingerings. As long as your mind says this is a C, G, and D, you can play an absolute astronomical amount of music. So I would encourage you to grab that guitar that's sitting in the corner of your house and just get comfortable with very basic chords, and then you can cheat your way to most other things.
Yeah, and then I see the guitar sitting in the corner, and I see guys on TV where they tune it. You know, you put your finger and twang and adjust. Bro, I'm clueless. Like, I don't know if my ears don't work that way. I mean, I've never taken a music class in school ever, right? So I don't know. It seems like there's a lot to learn.
I will say I have to, I kind of hate the people who can do that simple by ear learning and know, like you can play something and they can tune like to perfect pitch or sing perfect pitch. Cause I've been at least trying to be a guitar player for probably 20 years, and there's so much I can't do. And I'll get around people who are like, a violin player, have never picked up a guitar, but they can pick it up and kind of figure it all out in minutes, or
crazy.
People can jump between instruments having never really been taught them, just because they understand, theory and concepts, and like they have a good ear for it. I envy that. I've had to work hard for whatever level of skill I'm at. I've had to earn it. Some people roll out of bed and they just have it by nature.
And who do you think are the best guitar players out there right now? I mean, I don't know, but I've heard names like Eric Clapton's supposed to be a real good guitar player.
I mean, in his day, he absolutely was, and I mean, he's considered a god amongst guitar players. I've had moments where I've really liked him. I don't really know who right now. I don't know who the most like top shelf guys are. I still think like a guy like John Mayer is as skilled as anybody else, whether you like him or not. He's incredibly talented. I'm more of a singer-songwriter guy that I like simpler guitar arrangement. I'm not looking for the guy to blow me away by shredding or being like incredible, skill level. I'm more like, I like content. It's the same reason I don't like superhero movies and things. I'm not looking to be blown away by special effects. I want a great story. I'm more into that same way I feel about music. I'm into song and story versus aptitude on how fast you can play or how much you can wow me with your tapping ability or whatever. That just doesn't do anything for me. I listen to like Jackson Browne songs from the 60s that are, nothing's been done better than that, right? So I guess I have more of a love of the craft of songwriting than the ability that people might have to play great guitar.
So these are the kind of conversations you had with the old CEO of Ferche.
But I mean, it was more gear related probably. He was more of a bluegrass guy and had some other, had some styles that I wasn't necessarily into, which was always fun to talk to people who, we both play guitar, but we have really different approaches to kind of influences and that kind of thing. But we had that common thread, and I think that just allowed us to stay in touch. And when he said he had this opportunity, I should come talk to him about it. Again, as I mentioned, it was the right time in my life probably, and then it was just the right opportunity to look at taking the next step in my career in a different way. And probably my biggest fear at the time was, culturally giant change, going from, kind of cutting edge
flip-flops and shorts
company,
like you said.
and then go into industrial manufacturing in a small town. It was like a world away from what I was used to. But
where were you living at the time?
I lived in St. Cloud the whole time.
Okay, not
Still
far.
there. No, not far.
And that opportunity, was it the VP of sales position?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. And because I'd come out of the, ad agency business, I mean, it was the marketing side was low hanging fruit. That was easy. Come in and you can do that stuff right away. The sales part, which I had done in my roles prior in the tech business, I had the capability there, but I didn't know anything about the business other than what I had learned through working with them on projects over the years. But so I kind of stayed in for the first few months and just walked through the plant 5 times a day and like explored and like asked a lot of questions and read up on everything I could read up on. And I spent most of my days, those first couple months really, trying to immerse myself in what it meant to make high quality hardwood moldings. It was foreign knowledge to me, and then it wasn't. And then once I started understanding it, I could confidently go out and sell it and confidently manage the sales team that was under me. And it didn't take long before I just really loved it too. And that helped because, you know, I'm just a believer. If you have passion about something, you're going to want to do it, and you're going to want to educate yourself, and you're going to want to have, in my specific role, I wanted to be competent and have credibility. So if you don't know what you're talking about and you go out and try to sell something to somebody, there's a gotcha moment there somewhere eventually. And I just never want to put myself in that position. So I spent the time I needed to spend to get extremely knowledgeable so I could talk confidently in front of people and explain what made us different and explain what made our product better, or explain the technical details of some of the unique things that we were doing that nobody else is doing.
Yeah, that's a great approach, you know. And you got to believe in what you're selling too. I mean, if you're selling subpar products that you knew was kind of crap, that would be a problem. But that's not the case here.
No, and the other part of it that made it really easy is I got to know, you know, and not on a personal enough level than maybe I should have, but I got to know the people doing it, and I just respect hard work and American-made product. And like these people who have, our most unique thing is our people. We have 100 and whatever people, and we probably have, I mean, I've looked at the sheet very recently. I should know the numbers better. I mean, I have a 50-year tenure. I think we have 5 or 6 40-plus year tenures. We have a ton of people 20-plus years. People have lived their entire life working for this place.
Wow.
And they've dedicated their life to understanding how to do it and do it well and do it at a high level so that they can be proud to say they work for Ferche, and they can, whether they know it or not, they're putting a quality product out into the world because they care. And I've made a point in the last few months since I've taken over in my position. I've tried to share with them some of the projects that we've been doing with the products that they're making, because I don't know that a lot of them fully grip where this stuff goes. I mean, we've done like Google campuses and stuff like that, where it's like they're running the product through and they're putting the effort and the care into it like they would for the stuff that's going in your basement remodel. You know? Yeah. But it happens to be going into, you know, the highest high rises in Manhattan, or, you know, crazy stuff in the Middle East, whatever it might be.
Really?
Yeah. We've found a way to, you know, take that model and put it into some different, the model of what we've done well in the Midwest for decades and decades and decades, making trim for homes. We've taken that into this niche category of wood door frames that has carried us all over the world. We've done some really interesting projects through, you know, through our distributor network in the commercial division of Ferche, which we call Ferche Frames. We're doing stuff, like I said, for the big tech companies. So we've done stuff at Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Salesforce, a number of other big ones. We've done stuff at the where the Masters is played, Augusta National Golf Course. I mean, you know, beautiful historic type stuff like that. And then we've had a really nice stronghold in the kind of Manhattan, Brooklyn high-rise market. I mean, the biggest buildings that have been built in New York over the last 10 years, probably most of them have Ferche in them.
Jeez, no idea. Now, products, is that all types of products that Ferche provide, or is it more, I think you mentioned frames. Is that kind of what you're known for, or not so much?
In the commercial division, it's almost all frames. And then sometimes it's stuff related to, I mean, it's the frames will be the core product, and then we'll sell the casings that go around it, so the trim around the door.
Okay. And the frames, because of this fire-resistant thing you guys got going on there?
That kind of got us in the category of commercial architectural products, but it's a unique thing to be able to offer wood in that distributor channel. It's become so focused on hardware and then metal frames that most of those distributors would kind of shoe, if on a spec it called for wood frame, they would either just overwrite it and switch it over to metal and nobody cared, or they just accepted that was the option, or they would push it back and say, that's not us, that's got to go to the millworker, which is a different distributor network altogether, and that's something there's just limited in that regard. So we found our way into the right customer base that understands that our products exist, number one, because a lot of them didn't realize you could use wood, or they were told no, or the distributor didn't want to do it, so they switched it over. And then the fire rated thing solved a problem because you had to use metal until we had a wood option. So there was a learning curve that we had to sort of go out, and we hit the market hard. Right when I started, we kind of built some training and education platforms and kind of went out and did a lot of architect training and just said, I know you've been told no for your whole career, but guess what? Yes, you can use wood in these applications. And it's a super weird little niche product. It's a wood door frame. They're giant in size sometimes, but it's a small category that people don't even think about. I mean, until I walked in here, you probably never thought about your door frame, but now we've talked about it, and now you do.
No, I hate it.
And you'll start going to look around. I mean, that when you've probably talked to other folks that have kind of may have similar stories to tell, but like you get into, especially coming from a totally different industry, and I had no kind of conclusions made about what I was walking into. I just was excited to learn. And then as soon as I started like learning and became discerning about the products, now I walk in every house, hotel, business, and I can tell you what I'm looking at, and I can tell you if it's good or not, quality wise, but it's an area that most people aren't even paying attention to in a lot of cases. I mean, trim and door frames and stuff around there.
Yeah, and I got this crappy rubber trim around the carpet here.
Yeah.
Right? That's probably the cheapest stuff you can buy.
It's very common in spaces like we're in. But, you know, if I walked into most people's homes are going to have some wood stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot.
Yeah.
And I'll be able to, you know, I'm aware of it all in a way that I never was before. And even having, you know, a wife who's a designer and having been part of building some houses, I never gave it as much time or thought as I maybe, or as I certainly would now. So it's been fun to get into that. And then when, you know, we started carving out this niche in the commercial side, it's a different customer. It's a different sales channel. I have a whole different sales force on the commercial side. And the products are very different. I mean, they might sound like they're the same. It's a door jamb, but the way we make it and the size and shape and the species, it's all very, very, very different. So it's been really fun to just explore and learn and kind of grow and follow, you know, where the market wants to lead us as far as opportunities go. And like I said, it's brought us some really cool places, and we've done some impressive work that you wouldn't think of when you look at our, you know, we're in this town of 1,000 people, and
middle of nowhere.
Middle of nowhere.
Yeah. So, commercial door frames, do they all have to have this fire resistant quality to them?
No, but if you're in a high rise, for example, you have a number of openings that will have that requirement. So
sometimes.
Yeah. So we're kind of toward the end, but we had been immersed in a project, the tallest building ever built in Brooklyn. It's like 95 stories. And like the entry doors to the apartments or condo units, the entry doors are probably rated. And as you get higher in the building, you're going to be at a higher rating. So like 90 minutes, for example.
Okay.
As you get higher, you're going to be in like a 90-minute threshold. Lower, you might be 45, 20. And it took me a while to like realize it, but the common sense of it is like the theory, at least, is, as far as I understand it, someone can correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that the ratings kind of go along with how long they believe it would take to save you.
Evacuate.
Yeah. So like it's going to take 90 minutes to get to those people at the top, so they got a higher rating. But that's you know, that's probably entry doors and corridors and stairwell doors and that kind of things. But the rest of the house or the rest of those units, you know, like the closets and the bathroom doors, I mean, none of those are fire rated. So what's been unique about us is we've got this unique product, and then we can do all the non-rated products, and we can do the trim as well. So we're doing baseboards and casings and stuff. So it just, I think most people on the purchasing side in projects like that would prefer to get stuff from less people.
Yeah, one-stop shop type thing.
As much as you can, because you have less stuff to worry about and less, you know, just less people to keep account on, you know. And in the case of the commercial side, we've got, like I mentioned earlier, a totally different set of sales groups, because I use outside sales rep agencies. They're all selling complementary products, hardware, doors, and things. And then ours is if they need a wood frame, ours is the wood frame. And that that's been an interesting experience just to learn from those guys as well, because again, their wood is a foreign, other than the door, which is often wood, but often not. A lot of these guys have never seen wood anything. They've been working in this business forever, but they've never had wood products. So the ability to get in and educate people has been kind of fun too. And I kind of like that. I've done a lot of presenting and training and stuff in my whole career, but certainly in the last 10 years of being in this business. And it's fun to take something that I'm excited about and I care about. And like I said, I did a deep dive to really get educated about, and it's fun to share that information with customers and my sales team and architects and whoever wants to hear about it, just so they can understand when to use something. And it's not always the right product either. We're happy to tell you if it's not going to be the right fit. It's a terrible use of wood. We'll tell you that, because we don't want to put our name on something and put it out in the world that's going to fail and fall apart, or be used poorly. It's not the right application.
This whole commercial application, right? Is that relatively new to Ferche?
Yeah. So
a new direction for you? Yeah.
When the fire rated stuff kind of came our way, we have a strong contingent of customers on the East Coast that we've been serving for decades. And at one point, maybe in the 15 years ago, they're like, figure out, you need to make us wood frames that are fire rated. And so once we started doing that, it got us into things that we had never done before as far as markets. And so then we made the concerted effort in my time here that we were going to kind of rebrand it and treat it as its own channel, because it didn't make sense. It was kind of it was confusing to do data and reporting on our sales when you have these wildly different customer bases and totally different ways to go to market, and the products mix is totally different. So then the Ferche Frames division sort of is its own little world. And right when I started, we were just kind of in the earliest stages of bringing an actual dedicated sales force just to serve that market. And in my time, I probably hired, maybe 10 more agencies to service the rest. We serve pretty much all of North America and a little bit into South America. And some of our North American folks have relationships in the Middle East, so we've had some work over there through them. So it gets distributed out of the United States over to Qatar and Dubai and that kind of stuff.
So, when I say this statement, if you are interested in blank, and as a listener, if you are a blank, consider Ferche for a great option. What would you fill that blank in with? If you are a distributor, if you are a lumberyard, if you are a
homeowner,
directly to homeowners.
Yeah. You can't buy it directly from us because we're a wholesale we sell to wholesale distributors, but you can get it from,
you can request it.
Yeah. And I would say that we are unique in a category that's as ambiguous as trim. We actually have a name that people know, not necessarily every home owner, but most of the, a lot of builders do. We print our name on our products so they know when they're using a good one, and they can look at it and go, that's Ferche. Then they can ask for it by name. And, our name does sort of precede us in a lot of markets where people have historically gone to their lumberyard and said, I want Ferche. Because we make a product that a lot of other folks can make. And, there's less manufacturers than ever, but we make a product that, especially now with the way the patterns have changed, where they're very boring, a lot of flat stuff. You've mentioned you just redid some stuff in your home. Did it have a pattern, or was it just flat with some ease edges?
Just like a big thick board, basically a 1x6 or something,
Yeah. So, anybody can make that. How you make it varies. How well you make it varies. The care you put into it varies. So we compete with cheap crap, and we compete with other good stuff, but we have a name that people know. So we do know that, particularly on the contractor side, the way I would always kind of categorize it is we make professional grade, contractor grade products. The guy who wouldn't go buy his material at the big box, he's going to go be more discerning. He's going to go to the lumberyard and ask for our product by name. Okay. But ultimately, distributor, we want the distributors to want to buy it. We want the lumberyards to want to stock it. We want the end users to want to choose our product over the options that are available to them.
Okay. All right. So what else should we touch on? Anything else that comes to mind that you want to make sure it gets mentioned during the podcast?
The state of manufacturing in this country is disappointing in I guess that is a loaded word, but I love working for a company that has dedicated, hardworking, really great people, and who've, like I mentioned earlier, have dedicated their life to coming to work every day and making good products. And it's challenging, to say the least, to find those kind of people anymore. We've just something changed in this country where less and less people find value in doing labor jobs and pride in it, and I think that's too bad.
Yeah.
Having come from an industry where I think everybody would have thought that it was cool and it was cutting edge and that's where the world was turning toward, I much prefer working in industrial manufacturing business. I think it's the fruits of your labor are immediate. You can see, we make a lot of products every day, and I see it goes from rough lumber to all the different processes it hits in our plant to getting loaded on a truck. And you can see that every day. And there's something great to just watching stuff being made, understanding all the work that went into it from all these different people. It's a great thing. And it keeps America running.
Yeah.
And there's all this peripheral stuff that I wasn't aware of, certainly getting into this job. But, when the COVID times came, our business was considered essential. So we kept running the whole time, and no one had work from home or any of that kind of stuff because we had to keep America running. These people came to work every day and got work done.
Yeah.
And like our waste products, for example, we don't waste any wood. Not a scrap of sawdust is wasted. So anything that we can't use, there's a secondary purpose for it. Whether we make products from our waste goods, we sell our short blanks to the cabinet industry, our sawdust and shavings that we create and accumulate. We use them as a fuel source for our boiler systems, keep our plant heated. We also sell that as a fuel source to power companies and other manufacturers. If you were to shut a business down like ours during that time, it would have, could have crippled the economy. It could have shut down major infrastructure. And that's something a lot of people don't understand about just how vital manufacturing jobs are to the economy in the products that they produce, but also in the jobs they produce and in all the sort of things that are all tied to it. And I think I wish more kids would see value in getting into those types of industries as opposed to what, over the last many years they've been steered. It feels like they've been steered away from. And I think it's opportunities missed. There's a lot of good people. There's a lot of good opportunities, a lot of good jobs. There's good paying jobs that you can have a great life and raise a family by, putting in a good, honest day's work. And I think more people need to find that opportunity and see it as a good thing. And I think America's better when we're making more things here. I think that's been clear over the last few years. And obviously you have a podcast all about that. But it's I think it's not talked about enough how much the industries can die if people don't get into the industries as in work.
Yeah. And I think too, that kid that's graduated from high school going to work for Ferche, maybe on the line somewhere and liking it, continuing it, getting promoted within, maybe moving to a sales position because he understands the manufacturing of the product he's selling inside and out, working up to a VP of sales position and eventually the CEO, if that's what life brings.
The opportunity's there for sure. And I think there's, we just hired a younger guy a few months ago, and his dad's worked for us for like 45 years. And while he was in college and between his college and some military service, he worked, summers and winter breaks and that kind of thing at our place. And then the opportunity came for him to find a great office. We have a position in the office in business operations, and he stepped in and done a really great job in it. And it's because he was willing to put in the work and, work his way through a number of things, obviously military school, but working at our plant and kind of the grunt work jobs for a while. He was an easy person to say, we want to have him move into the office.
Yeah.
We knew we could trust him. We knew he knew where he came from. He knew the business. He'd been through the, kind of the steps. So I think there's opportunities like that all over the place. And as more and more manufacturing jobs are changing hands, or founders and high level folks are, retiring and moving on, there's always room for people to kind of work their way into escalated positions, whatever that may be. And to be fair, some people don't want to work in the office ever.
Right.
They may want to be the plant manager, and that's an absolutely essential position too, and a great job. So there's, if you just really like the hands-on of it, there's really great jobs in that too. I mean, what I don't want people to think is that it's not good enough. I think that's been a picture that's been painted over a lot of years, and I think it's bullshit, if I can swear on your podcast.
Yeah.
I think it's wrong. And I came from hipster, cool, cutting edge tech industry, and I will tell you that I'm super proud to work in an American manufacturing company, and I think everybody should consider it as a viable, really good opportunity, and not feel like they're any less than if they decide to do that and not go become an accountant or become a web developer or any number of things. That you can do that too, but you're not any better than anybody else. I think that story has been it's been wrongly portrayed for a long time in America.
Yeah, that's true for all blue collar jobs. I feel like, whether it's construction, manufacturing, be a plumber, whatever.
Plumbers are about the richest guys I know right now, by the way.
Right, especially if you own your own business in that aspect, man. These guys are making bank.
And they didn't waste a bunch of money going to college to not learn anything that was of value. They got to work, made money, did their apprenticeships and all the things they need to do to step into their roles. I mean, that's another opportunity missed. I think a lot of kids feel like they have to go to college when they could. There's fantastic jobs, great money, independence. There's a lot of great things about going into service in labor industry businesses. And I think more people are learning that because they're seeing the opportunities in front of them. If they have, particularly if they've got a parent or somebody who's done it. I mean, you can see the value in it, but there's a lot of people who wasted 4 years in college to come out and do nothing special when they could have just gone right to maybe a trade school or a tech college and gotten right to making money and starting their own business and being their own boss. And there's a lot of value to that.
Yeah, I agree. I know lots of people have gone to college and don't do what they went to college for, including myself. I mean, I went to college for many years to become a chiropractor. I graduated, did it for 4 years, and it wasn't for me, man. And here I am. Who would have thought? Well, in my, I have 2 boys that are 10 and 11, and just last week, my 10-year-old asked me, because football season was wrapping up, and he loved it. He's like, Dad, I think I want to become a professional football player. Do I have to go to college for that? And I'm like, yeah, you probably have to play college ball somewhere and then get recruited, And then my 11-year-old, he wants to be a YouTube star. So go figure. I got a professional football player and a YouTube star.
There's a lot of money to be made in both of those worlds. I don't know. I think they both have equally short-lived career paths, though. That's be the concern there. You have something to fall back on, I hope.
Yeah, we'll see. They'll change their mind next week. It wasn't long ago where Tyson, the YouTube star, he wanted to be an astronaut. That's still a backup plan, he said, in case the YouTube thing doesn't work out. So we'll see. All right, man. Well, let's wrap this baby up. So if you are a distributor in the construction lumber area, or own a lumber yard, or work at a lumber yard, or you are the end user, you're building a home, and you're building some kind of commercial space, and you want that sweet looking door frame made out of wood, right? Check out Ferche. So the website, my computer went to sleep on me. Is it just Ferche.com?
That's correct. FERCHE.com.
Did you build that website?
I did.
It's a pretty good website.
It's Yeah, we probably could use an update, but people don't use websites like they used to do either. It's a necessity in that you have it, but it doesn't have as nearly the function it used to have. But yeah.
Okay. All right.
But Ferche.com, and if you are a lumberyard, you probably work with one of our distributors. Ask for our product by name. You probably have it already, but keep buying it. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Corey, I appreciate your time.
Yeah, it's been great to talk to you.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks for listening to the American Made Podcast. Want to be a guest on American Made or know someone who should be? Apply online at theamericanmadepodcast.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast app to be notified when new episodes become available. And we'll see you next time on American Made.